You might be surprised to find out what players really want when it comes to Elite Dangerous. As we move into the later half of the year, we're going to see new updates for the game, so I took a look at what people really want to see added, and it surprised me just a little. The player numbers for Elite Dangerous remain really good, and in fact the game is having somewhat of a renaissance right now. It's a period following renewed commitment from Frontier to the game's development, with February 2025 releasing the Trailblazers update, which introduced the system Colonization. Alongside this, they released a 5-phase roadmap, which gave us indications as to what to expect for later this year. Now, Phase 5 is perhaps the more interesting one, because this is currently undisclosed. They're not telling us what it is, they won't even give a hint. All we know is that it's coming towards the end of the year. Naturally, there's a lot of speculation about this, so I went and did a bit of research to see just what players are hoping they can expect to see. We're going to go through a few points then that I discovered during my research. One of the most constantly requested improvements among the community is enhanced technical performance for the game, particularly for VR users. Players have been pretty vocal about this actually, and done so for a very long time. There's some high hopes for DLSS 4 as well as FSR 3.1 implementation in Phase 5, and for this reason, for the hopes for that, people cite the substantial differences these technologies have actually made to other space games such as No Man's Sky, which saw some significant performance improvements when they introduced both of those technologies. Anti-aliasing improvements also represent another really big technical desire that a lot of players want to see, stating that they would rather prioritize anti-aliasing enhancements over any other feature, with one player saying, "I would happily take AA over the ability to buy capital class ships or the ability to walk around on your ships. That's how much AA matters to me." It's a sentiment I see echoed a lot beneath most of my Elite Dangerous videos. In fact, in nearly every Elite Dangerous video I release, there's at least one comment, usually multiple ones though, that mention the problems with anti-aliasing in Elite Dangerous, and it really does need improvement, and it has needed that for a very long time at this point. So I don't really know why this continues to be a problem even after all these years. Perhaps it's something to do with the Cobra engine, but either way, there's a lot of people expressing a desire for this. Ultimately, it really comes down to quality, doesn't it? And in fact, quality is something we all want in our daily lives, especially when we're out traveling, and that's where the sponsor of today's video, Extra, can come in. Keeping track of essentials on the go can be a challenge. That's why I rely on Extra's Android Finder Card and Parliament Wallet. This ultra-slim, rechargeable tracker fits anywhere and connects seamlessly with Google Maps. If I misplace my wallet, I can ring the tracker card and even check its exact location on a map. It also sends left behind alerts, and with a solar rechargeable battery lasting up to 2 months, it's built for an active lifestyle. For my daily carry, I choose the Parliament Wallet, but if you prefer a different style, the Extra Card Holder Pro offers a sleek metal alternative. Both options provide quick card access and hold up to 12 cards and cash, and feature RFID protection with high-quality sustainable materials. Right now, you can save big with Extra's 30% off sale, and use my code for an additional 10% to get up to 40% off. Check the link in the description for all the details. But of course, there is a community feature wishlist, more content focused, and one of these, the obvious one, the one I've spoken about many times before, and in fact, the thing I've long wanted was ship legs. People talked about space legs, and I think back when we originally spoke about the idea of getting outside your ship and walking around, that would have been mutually inclusive of the idea of walking inside your ship as well. I don't think anyone, myself included, would have ever really imagined that you'd get the ability to walk around, but also not get the ability to walk inside your ships. That seemed, it seems like a bit of a disconnect. So this is a persistent community desire, ship legs, the ability to walk around inside ship interiors. We see a lot of comments from players indicating that this remains very much a top wish. And of course, related to that is the ability to not get outside your ship on space stations or down on planetary surfaces, but leave the ship when actually in space. In other words, spacewalks, EVA. Now, I do want to talk about ship interiors for a little bit more. This has been a long requested feature from the community, but it's also been a very polarizing request. A lot of people out there do want it, but there's always been much pushback from the community, especially on places such as the official forums. A significant number of people there have constantly pushed back against the idea of ship interiors. So this is worth spending a little bit of time on, just to talk about why some people feel that ship interiors are perhaps a bad idea. So these can be broken down into a few categories. Firstly, technical limitations and development resources. There's a good number of people out there and observers who kind of feel that the game's engine, the Cobra engine, has a fundamental obstacle to implementing ship interiors, and the argument here suggests that Elite's engine architecture simply can't support the feature, and they point to existing glitches in fleet carriers' interiors even after extensive development time. Related to this is the idea of a concern about the developmental resources that would be required to achieve ship interiors, and really, this is an understandable concern because obviously creating detailed interiors for the ship's massive range of ships at this point, I think well over 30 at this point, well, that would be substantial work, wouldn't it? Unless Frontier used a common theme for the various ships as they've done with station interiors. Another big objection that we often see involves how ship interiors would actually integrate with Elite's established gameplay. People here argue that adding interior spaces could really kind of disrupt the game's pacing by slowing down transitions between various different activities. For example, requiring players to navigate interior spaces to either enter or exit ships. I mean, at the moment you can just teleport instantly outside the ship, and some people feel that walking at the full length of the ship to get out of it might be a bit of a problem. There's also concerns about how ship interiors would function during certain gameplay situations. For example, if you're flying through space and your ship is interdicted and you're right at the back of the ship, either in the engine room or in your cabin or whatever, and you need to run back to the controls to actually stop your ship from being damaged. And yeah, in that time, you possibly could have been fully interdicted and completely destroyed. Other people simply don't see the point of ship interiors because they don't really see what value it would bring to the game in terms of gameplay. So we can actually counter a lot of these points. So there's a lot of good arguments against these. For example, the engine limitations. That argument is contradicted by existing features within Elite. For example, fleet carriers and station interiors already demonstrate that the engine can render detailed interior spaces, and that yes, these can be seamlessly integrated to the existing game. Developmental resources is an obvious one. Yes, this would be a problem, but think about it, the ship interiors would represent one of the most requested features by the community, and with players constantly expressing a willingness to pay for such content, yeah, there's money to be made here. Not to mention that Frontier could really monetize the interior of ships with a lot of ARX opportunities. And yes, people have been resistant to monetization for a long time, but with the introduction of the new ships we've had over the past year or so, Frontier have clearly been making a good amount of money. Hence, we're seeing that return investment back in a developmental time in the game. So yeah, I think this kind of proves the point that ship interiors would achieve the same thing. As for the argument about ship interiors disrupting existing gameplay, well, there's also some counters to that. For example, we've got telepresence in the game already. We know that exists as a technology within the game world. That is the ability to sit inside your ship and instantaneously appear inside a friend's ship by, well, essentially telepresence. You're not physically there. That's not the only form of instantaneous travel that's available within the game. We also have precedent for physical teleportation. That's when you teleport from the seat inside your cockpit to the exterior of your ship, whether that's inside a space station or down on the surface of a planet. Yeah, teleportation unfortunately does exist inside the game. Whether that's supported by law or not is an entirely different matter. It does exist inside the game. Therefore, for that scenario, when you're at the back of your ship and it comes under attack, it's interdicted, why not simply teleport back to the cockpit of your ship? Likewise, if you're walking through your ship and you find that getting a bit tiring, entering and leaving your ship, well, the teleportation option could still be available, couldn't it? No reason not to be having both. So yeah, personally speaking, I really feel that those arguments against ship interiors really don't hold any water, because they're not a technical problem. They are simply design challenges rather than insurmountable objects. Now, before moving on to other subjects, it's well worth just spending a moment on what type of gameplay benefits that ship interiors could bring. So, firstly, we can expect to see a deeper connection between players and their ships. They'll do this by becoming not only social spaces, but living areas in which people can develop and expand. In other words, a lot of opportunities here for setting out your own rooms and basically creating your own living spaces, and yet customization options, all the rest of it. In other words, it's a big step up for the personalization of your ship. Now when it comes to gameplay, there's other games out there that would serve some very good examples of what ships could all be about when it comes to ship interiors, and these are very much meaningful gameplay purposes beyond just aesthetics. For example, the ship would contain distinct different areas, would have the cockpit, otherwise known as the bridge, engine room, cargo hold, living quarters, each of these are serving specific functions. And we see this working very, very well in games like Jump Ship, and I had the chance to try that out a few weeks ago, a very good game indeed. And here, players get to manage distribution of power through various different mini-games or direct control of the ship. We get emergency situations such as fires burning through the ships where players need to run down with extinguishers located throughout the ship, and this really does put an element of tension and teamwork on the game. Repair and maintenance, likewise, people need to get outside the ship, sometimes even during combat, and make sure, things aren't flying off the ship. And for those of you who are wondering how this would work with a single player, there's no reason really not to have either automated systems or otherwise have NPCs that can assist with some of this stuff. The challenge of integrating these new gameplay elements alongside the existing gameplay of Elite Dangerous would be no easy task, but again, I'd argue this is not a technical challenge, it's rather a design focus. Either way, for me, and I do believe many other people, ship interiors remain a very high priority, very high up on the wish list. Now, moving on, we can kind of expand on the idea of ship interiors, and this doesn't necessarily mean that we'd have to have our own ships to walk around, but maybe other ships to walk around, and this could go hand in hand with EVA and zero-G environments. Basically, the idea here would be salvaging, getting out of your ship, heading into another ship whilst in space, a shipwreck, and flying through the wreck with your EVA thrusters and salvaging and taking various different components. Now, this isn't an idea I've seen too many people mention, but I have seen it mentioned from time to time, so something that I do feel could be particularly interesting. Another idea I've seen mentioned is the expansion of system colonization. Now, obviously colonization has only just been added to the game, but the ability to customize the interior of your own stations with various different cosmetics, I guess, whether these are earned through the game or some might be paid for, would also be a big shift in the way the game works. Think of the idea of what we've discussed with ship interiors, but apply that to the interior of your space station. So we've already got a little bit of this with fleet interiors, fleet carrier interiors, although I do feel the Frontier didn't go all out on this. And, thinking about all of this, we've seen so far with some of the more recent updates that Frontier have kind of enhanced and expanded upon ideas that have already been in the game. So yes, we've already got fleet carrier interiors. I'd really like to see the customization of these to a much greater extent, and then that could also be extended to your own space stations where you can have additional rooms beyond the ones that are just there by default. Another thing I'd like to see, and this is something unfortunately I don't see requested in significant volumes, but that's something I'd personally like to see, would be an increase in stellar and interstellar phenomena. So rogue planets, comets, supernova maybe, and the big one would be atmospheric planets, and I guess even gas giants where we could enter the upper atmospheric layers. A lot of different things to consider here then, from some of the somewhat smaller items such as technical improvements to the game, all the way up to the biggies such as ship interiors. It's very telling though that such a high requested feature, if we look at a recent survey I put up, a recent poll, the second most in demand request beyond ship features, ship interiors, was technological improvements to the game. So anti-aliasing, DLSS 4, FSR 3.1, ray tracing, all of that nice stuff. A lot of people appear to highly desire that as an addition to the Phase 5 update. I guess we'll have to see how it goes. Do let me know what you think about all of this in the comments section below. Thanks for watching this video all the way through. There is another one on the screen right here. Do check that out if you want to. I'll catch you all next time, and do take care.